Hey folks, my name is Jessica Mashkovich, and this is One Take with Jess. Today, my guest is Scott Aaron. He is a small town boy from upstate New York who turned golf pro and then real estate mogul.
I don't know if I would go so far as to say I'm a mogul, but I'm in real estate.
Let's inflate it anyway.
Okay, that sounds
This
good.
is all pretend.
I'll
This
take
Zoom,
mogul.
yeah, this
Okay.
Zoom land is all pretend anyway. We could
Okay,
say
good.
anything.
Okay.
How are you?
Thank you. Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
We talked about the fact that you have your new rowing machine. Is that how you're keeping up your strength and your health?
I am. I was swimming a lot over the summer, and I needed something in the winter because
Okay.
we don't go out anymore. So
Yeah.
I play at home.
Are you watching any shows while you're rowing?
Yeah, I try to throw on whatever sports on for the day. I guess I taped a lot of the skiing, all the all the FIS stuff. So I watch skiing and I row.
Okay, there you
Yeah.
go.
What else?
And so tell me a little bit about how you got into becoming a real estate developer in New York City, of all things. Like, upstate boy doesn't know anything from Manhattan except to go to a couple of doctors or maybe a school trip.
Right. Right. We did have a school trip there once, right?
I know. I don't know how they brought us there. Like, we're so not street savvy, and then they just bring us into the city. That's
No.
crazy.
Well, I don't think they really cared about us back then. They kind of left us to whatever we were going to do, right?
That's true. We didn't wear seatbelts in the back seat either. Everyone just rolled around in the back of your station wagon.
We took our lives in our hands every day. But we survived. We did okay. I think our generation is stronger for that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they could feed us to the wolves, and I think we'll be okay.
Just to divert for 1 second before you even answer the question that I just asked, there was a study that was done. I listened to Stephen Dubner in Freakonomics, and they were talking about the fact that car seats are not even effective. Like for
Yeah.
kids, yeah. I mean, seatbelts are effective for sure, but car seats are not effective. So, maybe our parents knew what they were doing when we were rolling around in the back seat of the station wagon.
I'm pretty clear they didn't know what they were doing. They just, I'd rather put my kid in a car seat. I don't care, but not anymore, obviously. I have older kids now. So
Yeah, I think your teenagers would object to that.
although sometimes they should be in the car seat.
Undivided attention when things are in car seats.
Exactly. So how did I get into real estate? Well, it was a kind of a long story. I'll try to make it short. After I graduated from college, I turned pro in golf, and I went out and I played for a few years professionally. And since I wasn't good enough to continue that, I had to find an alternate profession that actually would pay me.
When did you realize you weren't good enough in golf? And was that hard to reckon with because of your ego and all?
Yeah, I have a huge ego, right? No, I kind of knew from the beginning I wasn't good enough, but I was going to stretch it as long as I could. You know what I mean? I mean, for a kid in his 20s to go, play golf for a living for a few years, it was, you take advantage of it while you can, right? So
It was for the chicks. It was for the chicks.
It was for the golf. Let's just
Okay.
be for the guy.
Do
But
you get paid well when you're
um,
starting out as a pro?
oh, no, actually, there's really no money in it at all when you're starting out, unless you're one of these phenoms that kind of come out and go right onto the PGA Tour. But I was not anywhere near the PGA Tour. I played in South America, I played in Canada, I played over the United States. But on the kind of lower level tour circuits, and even if you won, there wasn't a lot of money to be made. But it was more of like a training ground. If you could continuously win and move up in the ranks, you could probably at some point try to make it at a higher level. I never got to there though. It's just, I was good enough to kind of stay out there for a few years, but not good enough to advance to, a real level.
Well, that's good. That's a life experience. You checked that box. That's pretty good.
It was fun.
Yeah. I was never a professional at anything.
Well, you're becoming a professional broadcaster, maybe, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's your stepping stone. You never know.
This is so unprofessional.
Yeah.
But that's how it is nowadays anyway.
Yeah, it's fun. Just having fun. That's exactly what I was doing. I was just having fun. I loaded up my car and drove around the country and lived in motels with my friends and played golf for a living. So there was nothing wrong.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Do you hear my cat, by the way?
Is that your cat?
Yeah, that's my cat.
Wow. It's like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom in there. Look at that. Oh, is it
Why are
she
you
or
quiet now, Leo? You don't want to meow? You're just going to be
does she
loud.
get along with the dog?
Yeah. She's so loud. She's so freaking loud.
She's loud. Beautiful
Okay.
cat though.
I'm going to go put her right outside the door. I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go back, Fergus. Go back. Go back. Okay.
Okay.
And we're back. So you loaded up your clubs in the car and you traveled around. You had a good time with your friends and you were a pro golfer, and that's very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. A lot of good stories, which I probably can't tell live, but we had some good stories. And then in 1996.
Wait, did you ever get arrested?
Not during that period of time.
How do I not know this? By the way, Scott and I are childhood friends, and we haven't talked to each other in 29 years or whatever. And now we're reconnecting. And now I first find out that you may have been arrested in your past. This was good.
I actually was arrested for driving with a suspended license back in the early 90s, which I didn't know was suspended, but I ended up getting arrested for that. Actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was not a fun experience. But yeah. So, but that's my only brush with the law, so I'm okay.
Did you go to jail?
I did. I spent time in the Tombs in Center Street.
Oh my God.
Oh, absolutely. I was yeah, they arrested me for it. I couldn't believe I was getting arrested for driving with a suspended license, but apparently you can get arrested for that.
Oh.
I was like 20, I don't know, in my early 20s, I guess.
Did you tell your children about this story?
They know about it.
Wow, good time. Do you have a mugshot?
There probably is a mugshot somewhere in the system. I would imagine, right?
Wow, I'm gonna totally try and find it now.
I would love to find it, but I don't know. I don't know if they even keep that stuff for very long. But yeah, it was. It was on a Friday afternoon, and I didn't get out until Sunday. I spent 3 days. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What are the accommodations like in jail? Because it's not prison; it's just jail.
Is that what this is going to come to? I'm going to tell jail stories?
No, but I have to know this story. You can't just like say and then not have a detail. Relive it with me. So you were in cuffs in the back of
I got cuffed.
Paddy wagon, yeah.
The police officer was actually reasonably nice about it. I mean, he took the car, which was my girlfriend's car at the time, and put it in the parking lot behind the precinct so she could come get it without it getting impounded.
Oh, that was very nice.
Yeah, and I ended up.
I think that's what they call white privilege.
Probably, yeah, I would imagine. It was on a Friday, and then Friday around midnight, if I remember, 1 o'clock in the morning, they put us all in a paddy wagon, like maybe 20 of us, strapped to the ceiling like this by one arm, and drove us around to pick up more,
of
criminals,
you guys.
More of us criminals.
Who were your paddy wagon mates? Were they? Did you meet anyone? Like, did you chat?
Yeah, there was a little chatting, but not very much. I mean, nobody was really happy to be there, so nobody really talked much, if I remember. But we ended up down in Center Street, and I was there from Friday. I can't believe I'm telling you all this. I was there from Friday until Sunday afternoon. It was over, I think, a 4th of July weekend, so it was a holiday weekend. There weren't any judges to be found, and I don't know if you've clearly never been in Center Street, but there are a series of cells, right? There's no air conditioning. It was 100 degrees, obviously. It was hot. It was, it was everything that you would think you wouldn't want to be in. And I stayed there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And finally on Sunday, a judge came in, and she said, she looked at my thing and she's like, "You've been in here for 3 days for this?" And I said, "Yeah." And she gave me like a $300 fine or something like that. And
oh my gosh.
I left. I couldn't believe it was $300 and I spent 3 days.
Nobody bailed you out?
No, I called everybody, and I think I called everybody. No, you couldn't get bailed out. They said once you're in the system, you have to get processed and you have to go through the whole thing. And so that's what I did. I went through the whole thing for a few days, and at the end,
my gosh, what did you eat?
Nothing. I didn't eat or drink anything for 3 days because,
Really?
yeah, you didn't want to eat anything in there. And you just kind of sat there and minded your own business. And, a bunch of, look, once you're there for 3 days with everybody, you kind of start to talk and whatever. And, everybody kind of got along and just waited until a judge came, I guess.
Wow. Did you like look anyone up on Facebook since? How are
No,
they doing?
no. There was one guy, though, that was in for selling watches, fake watches. And, he did try to get me to buy. He's like, look, when you get out, he'll get up with the watch.
Sometimes sales is really just in your blood. You just
Yeah.
can't stop selling.
Always be closing, right? He was trying to close.
Yep.
He
The
was a good guy.
ABCs.
Selling watches on the street. He got picked up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so we were all
So-
in this for a while.
All right. So good. Glad that you made it out.
Yeah, barely. No, it was all right. It was not all right. It was bad, but I survived it.
Okay. So now talk about how you got into real estate in New York City.
So there was a guy in jail that. So I got into real estate. So in the summer of 2006, I decided that I was done playing golf for a living because I wasn't making a living, and I went to work in the city. I had an opportunity to go to work for the Continuum Company, which was a reasonably well-known real estate development firm in the city. I did a lot of work in the 80s and early 90s. And so I joined that company as the low man on the totem pole. And I was basically told to keep my mouth shut, my ears open, and learn as much as I can. And I went to NYU Real Estate Institute at, the grad school at NYU there while I was working. And I started out just learning how to do anything. I mean, I was doing contracts for condos. I was doing punch lists. I was out on the construction site. And the good thing about that firm was that there were very few people in the firm, and we did really large projects. So I had to learn a little bit of everything. I had to understand marketing. I had to understand legal. I had to understand finance. I had to understand construction. And we worked with all the top people in the city from the very beginning. So I got a very good education, and I was there for, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years. And we did.
So you rubbed elbows with the likes of Jared Kushner and Trumpy and all of those other New York City names.
Yeah, the real estate community is pretty small. When you're the development community.
The development, yeah.
Yeah. Especially back then. It's a little bit bigger now. There are more people that are building, but back then there were not that many people that were building big buildings in the city. So you're at all the same events, and you kind of work with the same attorneys and same banks, same marketing people and construction companies. So everybody kind of knows each other. It's pretty small. I think now I mean I know a lot more people now than I did back then, just from being around the city for I guess it's almost 25 years now. So,
wow, you're old.
I'm old. I am. But
are there a lot more, like you just said, it was pretty small back then? Were there major barriers to entry? Is that why it was it deliberately kept small in a community like that? I don't know if there were barriers to entry that were political or barriers to entry that were financial. And what's the atmosphere now in the developer
Well, certainly
pool?
financial. I mean, to build a building in the city is not a small task. So you have to have a checkbook. But back then it was more, I guess, private development. There were a lot of families, kind of generational builders in the city, which, I mean, there's still the same group of people in the city building, but it's expanded over the years to private equity firms. And there's a lot more alternative ways of financing a building than just kind of, your family's checkbook and go in and build another building. And I think that that's given rise to a lot more construction in the city. I mean, back then there were plenty of places to build in New York. Now it's more difficult and more expensive to find a site, and there's a lot more competition for them. So, and people from, you have major companies like Blackstone, and Related is huge now. And, a lot of these companies that have been, they just have kind of unlimited amounts of capital chasing, not a lot of land. So it's more difficult to compete now than it was back then, I think.
Yeah. Can you tell me what the difference is between, or what the role is of a developer versus an investor versus the architect? Like how many people are in the mix? You have the money, which the investor side. What's the developer? What is the role of the developer?
Well, the developer is like the director of the movie, right? So you have the producer, and the producer is,
Sorry, you see what's going on behind me right now?
what's that? Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, you have two dogs? I thought you had one. Oh, is that great?
You could just watch this for a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. I always see your Instagram with the golden retriever out in the yard and everything.
Yeah.
That's great. Of course, they want to do it right behind you,
Of course.
right?
Yep. Okay, guys, hey. Fargo, Cooper. Oh my God. It's like a circus.
I love it.
Okay, you guys done?
How old are they?
5 and 6.
Really? That's it?
Yep. Okay. You gonna
I
go?
used to have a golden. Shira and I had Madison.
The golden doodle?
No, I have a golden doodle now. I had a golden retriever in the city.
Ah.
Yeah. And she used to be scared of the supermarket doors. You know when the doors open automatically as you walk past them?
Yeah.
So we were on the Upper East Side, and you would walk past the supermarket doors, and she'd lay down and have to she wouldn't move in the middle of the sidewalk, and everybody'd be like, "Is your dog okay?"
Oh no.
She didn't want to go past the supermarket door, so I had to walk around like in the middle of the street and come back, or else she wouldn't.
Aw, it's
Yeah, it was
worth
great.
it. That's so
It
cute.
was worth it.
I'm gonna put them out.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I think I'm gonna have to chop this video a little bit with the interruptions. It's
That's okay.
annoying on the audio side. I'm sorry, audio
Do
people.
you know how to edit it and everything like that? Have
I
you learned
just
how to?
throw it into iMovie, and then just if there's like interruptions like this that are just completely outlandish, I'll just chop it out, just split it, clip it, and save the thing again.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I know very little, but I know enough to be just a little dangerous. Or
Yeah, no,
productive.
I've been watching your stuff. It's really good.
Thank you.
Randy is a great guest, by the way.
I know, I love him, and he's so
hilarious.
good. Like I'll call him, I'll text him at like 6:30 in the morning because usually just he and I are up in this world.
Mhm.
And I'll be like, Randy, come on the podcast. He's like, okay, what time? I'm like 8. He's
That's
very
so
good
great.
like that.
Yeah, no, he's really good. I like. He's like, you can have a steak. It can be, it doesn't have to. It can be frozen. It's fine. It's like he doesn't. He's not pretentious. He's like, yeah, it's fine. Just meat.
I know. He's good like that. It made me feel good about myself because, I told you that with that my cooking thing, and I'll take a frozen steak and thaw it in like water,
Mhm.
which are things that I thought chefs would like murder you for. But
He's like, yeah, it defrosts, right?
yeah, he's good.
All right. So you want to start over with the
Yeah,
developer?
no. So you're the director. So as a developer, you're the director of the scene.
Right. So I mean, look, there's a few pieces to this, right? So you have the developer is really in charge of kind of creating the building, right? So you want to understand whether it's going to be a glass building or a brick building, or what the character of the building is going to be, who you want to work with to design the building or construct the building. And so all of these decisions on putting the whole team together it's really up to the developer. He directs the movie. The producer is, you can say it's the lender, it's the bank. The developer usually puts up money to build the building. The way it usually works is the developer will put up some money, and then you'll borrow money from a bank for the rest. So if the project costs $100 million to build, the developer will put up somewhere between, I don't know, 25 and 35 million. And then the bank will lend you the rest. So the developer is part of, obviously, the equity and the investor part of it, but they also direct everybody else. to kind of create what their vision is to create.
Hmm.
So my role is to go out and hire and work with the architects and engineers and legal team and marketing teams and design teams, and the construction companies to get the building from a piece of dirt to where people can live in it.
Hmm.
And
So how do you find that piece of dirt? Do you work with realtors? Are they like, there's no dirt in Manhattan now?
well, it's not dirt, but
I know, but do you knock something down?
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have to fight with the preservation people that this building is old, but it's not worth preserving as a historic building? Or
Well, the good thing about New York, and the reason that there's such a high barrier, I wouldn't say barrier to entry, but there's a high price to pay for land, is that New York is really well defined. So the zoning in New York will essentially tell you what you can build. So there isn't really there isn't really too much leeway as to what you can build on a particular piece of dirt on a particular site. It's all shaped by the zoning. The other thing is that if the building is historic, then then it's designated a historic building, and you have to follow the rules for either renovating a historic building. You can't knock it down, but you have to do what you can to renovate it under the supervision of the landmarks preservation. So there's a
Mhm.
New York City landmarks committee that will oversee all of that. And you have to
Yeah.
present to them if you want to do something to that building. You have to go through a whole presentation and get their approvals, and that's not an easy thing because they're pretty strict about keeping the character of the city, and rightfully so. There's a lot of, you don't want to just raise everything and build new. It's
Right. Are there a lot of properties in Manhattan that are under that
oh yeah,
landmark preservation? A
tremendous
good
amount.
percentage?
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a lot. Yeah, you run into it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I know I'm asking like detailed stuff, and I don't know, maybe it's just my level of interest with this, but how do you manage to put up a new building with the entire infrastructure underneath the city? Every time I'm in Manhattan, I'm always thinking like, how are these buildings even being held up? Because our infrastructure is like Swiss cheese under Manhattan,
Mhm.
between the subway system and the everything else needed.
Right.
The
Well, I
utilities.
mean, it's true. There's an entire city under the city,
Mhm.
and uh, we've made a real distinct practice of preparing prior to building a building to know what's underneath the ground. So we do test borings that go down sometimes hundreds of feet to see where you can hit rock. The good thing about Manhattan geologically is that it's prime Manhattan anyway. I mean, Brooklyn, there are all sorts of different areas in the city have different characteristics, land characteristics,
Topography.
topography, and most of Manhattan is mica schist. So if you look at a geological map of Manhattan, right, you can see from the bottom of the city kind of up toward the top of the island. It kind of goes like this, and around Midtown, it raises up on a hill a little bit, and that's because it gets more solid, and there's granite essentially underneath the city.
Mhm.
You can drive piles into the rock, which provide the stability for the building. I built a building downtown on Fulton Street, and we had to drill down over 120 feet just to hit rock. The rest of it was like sand and sludge and whatever else was at the southern tip of Manhattan. So we had to actually anchor into rock 120 feet below the city.
Mm.
But the infrastructure you're talking about runs primarily in the sidewalks and the streets. It very rarely cuts through a piece of property. So you're never really excavating, over a subway or anything like that. You're excavating next to it a lot of times, but
Okay.
you're never really over it. So, I mean, there are places in the city that literally have streams running through, underground streams and rivers. There's some interesting stuff down there. We run into some interesting things.
That's weird. I'd love to like see where that hidden stream is underneath or whatever.
There are a bunch of them. There are
Send me
some,
that address. I really want to go like looking for this.
I know that there are some downtown. I believe there's one. I think Trinity Church. One of the Trinity Church buildings has a like a stream or a river literally underneath it. There are buildings where the foundation, there's water that runs like right underneath it, and you have to, when you're designing a foundation, you have to, kind of accommodate all of that. So it's pretty,
That's crazy.
you want to stay
That
away from those sites. Those are the ones you don't want to deal with.
Wow.
You don't have
Has
to.
construction changed since 9/11? I'm sure that the collapse of a bunch of buildings in our city caused by, the airplanes and everything, but the entire structure and the integrity of certain buildings that were nearby, came into question as well. Has the method of construction changed or any new requirements been created?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain requirements that we didn't have prior to 9/11. One I can think of is they have a new system for communications that you have to install in high rises, so that if there is a situation, it's a dedicated communication system, so the firemen uh, are able to communicate if they're up in the building. And
Mhm.
so it's a cable system, a communication cable system that is really reinforced and really thick and very heavy duty, so that it doesn't, so that you're able to continuously monitor with the fire department during
Yeah,
time of crisis. And it's expensive. I mean, it probably costs an extra $1 million to put it into your building. But it's, that's one of the things that they require now. There are a bunch of other code issues that probably have been over the years massaged a little bit to make things safer and more secure.
hmm
So, but I think from a building code standpoint, New York City is probably the safest city in the world in terms of our code, and it's also probably one of the greenest cities in the world. I mean, our code, our energy code is really really strict, and it's getting stricter and stricter. So I think that the city's moving along in a good way with that too.
that's good. And that makes it more expensive to build to be green.
Hmm. Yeah, it's much more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do you deal with the fact, or your apartments you build not to sell but to rent, right?
I've done both, but we've been focusing on rentals for the past, 7 or 8 years.
And these are luxury apartments. What does luxury mean? What's the threshold for luxury versus
Well, I
regular?
think everything in New York that you're going to rent in the open market is a luxury building because New York just has the New York City renter or buyer has a very high expectation in terms of style and finishes and things like that. But we also provide 25% of our apartments that we build in each building are affordable, and they're designated affordable by the city of New York based on income levels of people who can rent in them. So a one-bedroom apartment that would be, say, a free market apartment would be making up a number $5,000 a month, and that same apartment under the affordable program would be maybe $1,000 a month.
And is the rest of it subsidized by a government program, or it's built into the overall price of the free market people?
No, it's subsidized through tax abatements for the developer. So when you build the building, the program says that if you put, there's different percentages of affordable.
Hmm.
If you put 25% affordable apartments in your building, then your real estate taxes for a period of time stay steady and they won't increase. So it's the city giving the building a tax break for building the affordable apartments. And some developers choose not to do that. We always do it, and you're still paying the same amount we do anyway to build an affordable apartment that you do for a market rate, because I don't believe in giving lesser finishes or anything like that. We just give everybody the same luxury finishes, whether it's an affordable apartment or a regular, market rate apartment, and all the amenities are the same. Uh,
Sure.
so it still costs the same exact to build each apartment, but the difference in rent is astronomical. So they make it up by giving you a little bit of a tax break.
Hmm. And that's an optional thing. You don't have to be 25% or any percentage affordable.
No, you don't. You can build straight market rate if you wanted to.
Oh, okay.
It's optional. I think the real estate taxes in New York, depending on your property, the real estate taxes in New York increase at such a high rate that it almost doesn't make any economic sense to build a building without the tax abatement. I don't think that it's a lot of times not financeable. So in certain situations, you may be able to do it if you wanted to, but the real estate taxes in New York are so high that it's very difficult to even finance a building unless you have that tax abatement, especially from a long-term perspective. It's just, if taxes continue to increase, you could have the best building in the city and you're still going to lose money and it won't be a viable project.
Right.
So you wouldn't undertake it.
So as a developer, let's talk about the Fulton Street.
Fulton Street.
I think I used to work down there.
Did you?
Anyway, is that a revenue stream for you ongoing, because you were the developer and it's a rental apartment and I'm sure you have a management company managing it, but is that just an ongoing profitable thing? You didn't sell the building. Are you still technically an investor in that property?
No. So I built that building with a family that I know who owned a parking garage on the site, and they didn't want partners. So I built it as what they call a fee developer. So they said,
okay.
Here you go. Here's our parking lot. Give me a building. And so we worked together. They've never built anything before. But my style is to kind of include the owners, obviously, and they're welcome to come to all the meetings. They come to the site. It's an exciting thing for them to, kind of partake in. Right. So, we had a good time with it. It took about 24 months to build. And the owners were, kind of always there and watching the process and giving their opinions and things like that. But I was primarily responsible for delivering them a building. And once it was finished, they own it. I don't own it. But I'm still involved because I'm still involved with the family. So I still, work with kind of asset managing the building a little bit with them. And, it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of like your baby, it's right. Sitting there and you want it to do well. Not just kind of build it and leave. You still want it to perform, and just the competitive nature. I kind of always want my buildings to outperform the other guy. So, so we're always doing things to kind of, keep the occupancy up, to keep the tenants really happy and make it a really quality, kind of a quality building. And it is, It's one of the best buildings downtown. I think that even during the pandemic, now they're running at, 95 to 98% occupancy.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. A lot of apartment buildings, of course, are suffering because people aren't paying their rent, and there's not a lot of things that are allowing apartment building owners to skip out on their real estate taxes. So it's, it's sort of like someone gets left holding the bag when it comes to owing and not being able to pay at a certain point.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way it's worked out, there's rent forgiveness, right? And the tenants don't necessarily have to pay. There's some qualifications to that, but it's, if the tenants really didn't want to pay, I guess they kind of don't have to until a certain point. But the owner still has to pay their mortgage. The owner still has to pay the real estate taxes. The banks are not forgiving mortgages.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what's coming into question. Biden allowed for, I think, until September 2021 for the renters to continue to not pay if they can't pay. But there needs to be another thing coming through that helps, for the building owners in that respect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the formula has to be, but I think, look, the best way to do it obviously is to try to fund the tenants so that they can pay their rent, right? I mean, put money in the people's pockets and at the same time, get rid of this pandemic and open us back up, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah. Let's talk about Manhattan and escape from New York. A lot of people are just, giving up their New York City apartments, packing their bags and heading to Nashville or to, what are the top cities? Top cities are Tennessee, Miami, down to Florida. People are going there. I mean, we're out here in New Jersey, but we're still looking maybe to move elsewhere as well. Possibly Austin. We're exploring.
Music City.
But yeah, how's the city going to retain people? How's New York City going to get back to itself? The social social unrest, and the violence, and the defund the police, and the restaurants, and the theater. I mean, these things are suffering right now.
Right.
What's your plan,
Well,
Scott Aaron? What's your plan?
well, New York, right? No, look, New York's a complicated city, right? It's even complicated when it's full and bustling. But I think a couple of things will start to happen, right? Once we get this pandemic more under control, and I think that, without getting too political, I think the governor's done a really good job. I think the plan that I'm hearing from Fauci and Biden and the new administration sounds really aggressive and good. And I think hopefully we'll get to a point sometime this summer where things are starting to look a little bit more normal.
Okay, what is the plan? What's the current plan? Just in case someone listens to this podcast 4 years from now.
Well, he's only been there for a few days, right? So
Oh yeah, we have a new president
we
in
have a new
office.
president.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've
So
just moved
I
in.
think the plan is, I mean, they're talking about 100 million vaccinations in the first 100 days. I heard something about 200 million, by the summer or something like that. So, and New York City, listen, I've been to a couple of places. I went to Florida recently for a day for a meeting, and I was out west a couple of weeks ago, and I looked like a terrorist getting on an airplane with my mask and my hoodie and my face shield and my gloves. I mean, you would never get on a plane any other time except for now looking like that, because they'd probably throw you off. But
How was security? Did you go through security and have to take everything off? I doubt that they're doing that now, are they?
Yeah, no, you had to take, well, you pull your mask down, and then they look at your picture online, when you're online at TSA.
Yeah.
And then you go through, I mean, the security is kind of the same, but once you get on the plane,
You suit up.
you suit up. I mean, I was suited up in the airport and the plane just because I wasn't taking any chances. But yeah, no, it's there aren't a lot of people in the airports right now, obviously, and the planes weren't full, so it wasn't that bad.
Okay. So what's life like out there in the Midwest and in Florida?
It's like there's no pandemic. Like these people don't wear masks. It was especially in Florida. I couldn't believe what was going on down there. But I mean, it's a different world. I think in New York, because we got hit early and hard, and we were the first ones in. We have a little bit more respect for what this is all about. And New Yorkers have been in the city. I go in the city every week, and whether it's in the restaurants or on the street, everybody's wearing a mask. People are really paying attention in New York, and I think it's because our leadership has kind of, has talked about that from the beginning, and we were also the first ones hit. So I think we're more sensitive to it. The rest of the country doesn't seem like they're. I mean, I'm sure there's pockets of areas that they are very strict, but I saw, in Florida, I mean, I couldn't believe what was going on. It was, they don't, it's like there's no pandemic down there.
So what do you think should be like a federal mask mandate for indoors all the time? What about places that don't have much coronavirus, no COVID-19 running through their emergency rooms? And
I mean, look, if you're, I think that whether you're in one of those areas or whether you're in a densely populated place like New York, where you're always kind of on top of everybody, it's not that big of a deal to wear a mask. Like, I don't know what the big deal is. You walk around, you put a mask on, and eventually the more people who do that, the faster this thing goes away. And the faster we can open up the restaurants and the stores and everything else. I mean, I don't think it's the politicians who are saying, wear a mask, that are doing anything wrong. It's the people who aren't wearing them, that don't really care, that are, contributing to this. So I'm hoping that, it gets under control and we can get back to normal. I think what'll happen in New York, look, New York lost, I want to say there's like 65 million people that visit New York every year. And I think that's New York State, but a high percentage of them visit the city, tourism. Mm-hmm. And I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but I want to say there's, 60 to $65 billion in revenue generated from that. And it's gone. Right. So for the past year, there hasn't been much of it at all. And I think that once that comes back, that funds hotels and restaurants and Broadway and all of the things that New Yorkers really, want in their lives, right? And that hopefully will start to come back soon, and that's going to contribute a lot to the New York economy, and I think it'll start to drive revenues and bring people back. Because if you're in New York, I mean, the city is great, but it's really great because of the wide diversity of people, the great diversity of restaurants, the Broadway shows, just the feeling of being in the city and everything that's going on culturally. And it's kind of like not there right now. It's it's
Right.
kind of empty. So
Yeah.
when that comes back, and I think it will, this year.
Yeah. I just wonder how long it'll take for people to wrap their head around the mentality that we're in right now is fearing close contact. Don't come within 6 feet of someone, wear your mask. And
It's going to be strange, right?
I mean, this Manhattan is the anti everything of that. You're in the subway, you're here and here with people. You're in a restaurant, you're here and here, your back is up against someone else's chair.
Right.
You're in the theater, in the old theaters, and you're in seats that were built for people from 1920. The average size, the average weight of a man that fought in the Civil War, I'm going back way,
Okay,
is like 130 pounds. Is like the average. Yeah, I just heard that statistic. So when these things were put together and these seats were created, they weren't meant for like us humans. So you're still packed in like sardines, and they're not changing the seats to big, AMC theater seats, the recliners in these places. But I wonder how long it'll take for people to, to be able to bring themselves to engaging again in the Manhattan, in the New York City life and the theater.
That's a good question. I mean, look, we know that the fall is the big season. Fall and going into Christmas, like those months are generally pretty busy in terms of hotels and hospitality and tourism. Hopefully by then you'll be in a situation where people will come back, right?
Yeah, fall 2021.
Yeah. I think
it depends if we're allowing international travel. Depends if they're allowing, if how the flare-ups are in other countries.
It's hard to be a predictor in this because this is our first time around, right? So you kind of listen to what the scientists say, and they're pretty optimistic about getting people immunized. And, I think more people will take the vaccination than originally thought. They're talking, I think people are getting more comfortable with it. And hopefully by the fall we'll be okay, right? I mean, it's not going to be okay, but it'll be, a lot better than it is now, and things will start to be able to be open. I think also once you get into the spring and the summer, we kind of learned how to eat outside on sidewalks, right? And a lot of these restaurants were open out on the sidewalks and things like that. So, if you can do a combination of indoor dining and outdoor dining, in the spring and the summer and the fall, I think the restaurant industry will be better. And, what we're going to find out is really what happens to the office market in the city, because I think there'll be a huge contraction of office space, the need for office space, because people will be working from home more.
Absolutely. Are you seeing any opportunities with empty office buildings or, space like that, converting them into apartments that already have the, I'll say the word infrastructure again, but they're already ready to roll when it comes to working from home and all the connectivity that's needed. All it needs is like some divider walls, a bed, and a bathroom. Unless people want to use communal bathrooms, they could still go to like the third floor bathroom.
the dorm style, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, there are some hotels that are actually offering people office space, and you basically, you can work from home, but it's from a hotel room. And you have, what else do you need? You have a mini fridge, a bed, and Wi-Fi.
As long as it comes with those little bottles, you think you're all right, right? I think, look, we'll see what happens. The office buildings, the owners will have to deal with their lenders, and that takes a long time because very few buildings in the city are just owned with no mortgage. And so if your building is empty and people are moving out and you're unable to pay mortgage because you can't collect rent, then you've got an issue, and that's going to go through its whole system in terms of foreclosures and things like that, or workouts. So there's a lot to do there, and I think that you'll start to see that this year, and it'll last a few years. It won't be something that is kind of over and done with, and no, let's just convert them to apartments, because the truth is a lot of office buildings are not really convertible to apartments because of the depths of the building and the requirements for light and air for each bedroom and things like that.
Ah,
So it doesn't set up well a lot of times for conversions. In the downtown in the financial district, in the 90s, we saw a lot of office conversions before we started seeing new ground up construction down there. And those buildings, they do okay, but there's a lot of wasted space because they just don't set up well to build an apartment because they're big, wide open floor plates. So I don't know if we'll see a lot of office conversions to residential, but I'm sure there will be some. But I do think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the hotels, because the hotels obviously don't have kitchens in them, right? So in order to retrofit a hotel into apartments, you have to kind of take 2 or 3 bays, and they're generally, 12 to 14 feet wide by say 25 feet deep, and you have to turn 2 or 3 of them into one apartment, right? And you have to add a kitchen, and you have to take out bathrooms, and so and we've done that before, and you end up kind of just demoing the whole floor and starting over. It's very
yeah.
difficult to convert those
Well,
things.
I mean, if it has good bones, we've seen what happens to hotels that go unused.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
Pines, the Concord.
yeah, they
These
get
are
knocked down.
hotels in the Catskills and the Borscht Belt that we grew up with that,
Mhm.
met a horrible fate when nobody was coming to the Catskills anymore.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
we saw gorgeous hotels that people came to every weekend, spent summers there, and they
Hmm.
just withered away and corroded and died and then were leveled and knocked down. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would hate to see that would be the fate of some hotels that don't make it in Manhattan. Like, whoever would have thought that any part of New York City would start going, being dead on the vine. That's
Right.
like such a weird, that's a movie. That's
Well,
not.
the hotel industry typically is pretty cyclical in the city. It's
Mhm.
boom and bust, and it's a it's a function of just overbuilding. Like you'll start to see tourism really increase, and then of course everybody runs to build hotels, and then it kind of goes down, and the hotels you go from 95% occupancy to 80%, and everything is financed based on high occupancies, and when they dip, all of a sudden you're going, oh, now we can't pay the bills. So the hotel industry is pretty cyclical. But that said, we've had a long run, especially during the Bloomberg administration. You had a long run of tremendous growth and big tourism in the city. I mean, so there was constantly new hotels being built, and they're getting better and better and more fun to be in, and more stylish and much cooler. So it was a good run for the hotels. Now, there's a lot of great hotels in the city that are closed right now, right? And you
Mhm.
drive through the city and you see that, and it's just disheartening. And look, they'll figure it out. A lot of them will fail financially, and they'll get retraded and hopefully opened back up.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who work in those hotels that don't have jobs, right?
Right.
And they're the hospitality industry in the city is huge, and there's a lot of people that aren't working. So we got to you get it moving again, and hopefully everybody can start to work a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you think a
Yeah.
lot of international money is going to come in and there'll be more international investors, more international ownership of New York properties?
I hope so. Look,
You hope so? Or
yeah, sure.
just because the influx, just because it's money?
Yeah, I mean, anytime somebody comes from overseas to buy an apartment or to spend money in the city, I mean, it's good for the city, right? So,
Yes and no, because a lot of times if they're buying an apartment, they may not be there as often as someone who actually lives there and spends money, going out, doing things. New York City may not reap the benefits of their everyday living dollars. They may just have these
right.
apartments, whether it's for investment or for,
But they still pay real estate taxes. They pay transfer taxes when they close. They pay mortgage recording tax if they have a mortgage. And if you're a city like New York or London or Paris or I mean, pick any major city in the world that's a real city. When I say a real city, a top 10 city. Um, there's a lot of foreign investment, right? And there's a lot of international buyers, and there's a lot of international movement of people in the city. And
Hmm.
that's part of what gives the city its flavor, right? So it's a mixture of people like us who grew up here. It's a mixture of immigrants who come in and their first stop is, Jackson Heights, Queens, or something like that. And then it's a mixture of, wealthy foreigners buying, $20 million apartments, and they come in, 2 or 3 times a year. But when they come in, they're spending a lot of money. They're buying, a lot of stuff on Fifth Avenue. I mean, we have friends that work in, high-end boutiques, and, without the foreign buyers coming in, walking out with, $60,000 worth of clothing,
Hmm.
those people that work in those boutiques don't really make as much money as if these people were coming in. So, to exclude, the idea to try to cast kind of a shadow on, foreign money and foreign buyers. I think, listen, everybody benefits by people coming into New York. It's an international city. That's kind of what it is. And that's, that you have people way up at the top of the, economic level that are buying, $100 million apartment. And, I mean, obviously most people can't relate to something like that, but that could be like their fourth apartment that they own, you know what I mean?
Right.
But listen, God bless them. Come spend 100 million, and when you're here, go spend 50,000 a day in the stores, and go spend 20,000 to take all your friends out to dinner and buy wine in the restaurants and leave big tips, and
Right.
there's nothing wrong with any of that. You know.
What about crime in Manhattan? I mean, we've seen throughout this entire year, there's just been devastating numbers of the number of shootings and killings, and we'll call it murders because that has been, and the defund the police. And when is New York going to retake New York?
Well, look, it's a difficult time now because there are a lot of economic issues, right? There's not a lot of revenue coming into the city.
Hmm.
I think the federal government really iced New York over the past few years. They've not funded the things that we need funding, and the truth is that New York pays into uh, the federal government way more than it gets back. Right? We fund a lot of other states, and if we were just funding ourselves, I think that it would be, we'd probably have the money to do a lot of these things and take care of a lot of programs that aren't being taken care of. But that's just the way it is, right? So I think that this administration, what's left of it, they have another 9 or 10 months, and then whoever the next administration is in the city, I'm talking about the mayoral administration. And we have a lot of people now that are going to be running for mayor, and a lot of talented people. So hopefully, between the next 9 months and the next administration, they kind of figure out how to do business again in the city, right? After this pandemic. That's, whether it's crime or whether we have a homeless issue.
Hmm.
They have to figure out the programs that were either in place that are no longer in place, and how to fund them to help the homeless population. There's obviously issues with the police, and I think that they're working on police reform.
What does that mean?
Well, I think there's training that they're talking about, retraining a lot of sensitivity training. I think this whole defund the police thing was, I don't know that defund the police was exactly what these people were talking about. It became kind of a tagline for redistributing dollars that were going to the police department to pay for police officers to do things outside of their typical scope, rather than kind of concentrating on crime. They were, doing other things in the city that were that maybe, the other professionals might be doing. Whether it's, I know that they were in the school systems, for example. I don't know if you want policemen in the school systems. They could probably be better utilized outside of the school system. So maybe money has to be reallocated to bring professionals who are more sensitive to.
Is that what defund the police meant? Like,
Yeah.
I know they talked about sending social workers on certain calls that
Mhm.
police end up going on calls for domestic violence or something like that. But I, I don't think many people know what defund the police actually meant. I
Well,
almost
from
feel
what
like
I've
it
read,
was
I
like
mean,
fuck the police, one of those types of
yeah,
statements.
no, no. Look, I'm sure that there are plenty of people who want to quote defund the police, right? They're out there. I think that the some of the more thoughtful politicians who are in charge of these things were not so much thinking of just defunding the police departments. I think they were talking about potentially reallocating funds so that, the scope of the policemen narrowed to law enforcement, and reallocate money for sensitivity training and the things that have to go on in the various, not just in our police department, but in all police departments, right?
Right.
So I think that's, defund the police kind of ran away with itself. And I don't think that was really, I mean, I would assume that that's not really what serious people meant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think
Sometimes people just get behind a cause and they have zero idea what the cause is. I remember
right,
when they were doing that thing with, what was it down on Wall Street? It was years ago. I forgot the name of what people were doing. They
Occupy
were,
Wall Street.
yeah, Occupy Wall Street. They were just out there camping
Mhm.
and spending so much time. And then when they were being interviewed by certain reporters, they would ask them questions like, do you know why you're here? What's the point of you being here? They weren't able to answer the question. They just loved being there. They loved being a part of it. So how are people, and a lot of people, with the whole divide of the nation and the social issues and people siding on one side or the other side and constantly posting on Twitter and Facebook, and this has been a lot of people's lives. They've
Yeah.
defined themselves by their position and their social, they're like keyboard warriors.
Mhm.
And now that Biden is in office, I mean, the hope is that the country will kind of come to a little bit more of an agreement that we need to function as a country, as a unit.
Mhm.
And, thank goodness there's that picture of Bernie and his mittens that really has unified everyone at this
Right.
time, just because it's so damn cute. And
The woman in Vermont who apparently knitted those mittens. I mean, could you imagine what, so I think that she has a little shop up there, from what I understand, and she gave Bernie these mittens, and he's been wearing them, and now,
I
you know,
love it. I
they're the most
love it.
famous mittens on earth, right?
The most famous mittens, but I don't know what people are going to do with their time. I don't know if this is going to take away like their existence. Like this is how they've existed. They're like, now I can't post anything anymore. I wonder if there's going to be like a depression that comes with
Who can't?
the
What do you mean can't post?
community. Huh?
What do you mean can't post?
No, there's nothing that they can fight on.
Oh, there'll be plenty for them to fight on.
The topics have now gone like to the wayside. Hopefully we're getting to a new point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got off Facebook years ago, and my Twitter feed is basically, I follow different writers for different newspapers, and kind of that I like.
And that used to actually sound impressive in an intelligent kind of way, but now following different, newspapers, or you don't know what you're getting. Even the news isn't the news anymore. It's just a very opinion.
Some of it is, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is, but if that's why you can follow certain news organizations that kind of, this is what it is, and you read a lot. I get up in the morning and I read the Journal, the Times, I read Bloomberg, I'll read some Washington Post, I'll read some, I read a lot of different newspapers, and then I have my feeds are like PBS. I spent a lot of time in the morning reading. Just different things. And, I'll flip around to the cable news channels, everything from Fox to CNN to MSNBC, just to get everybody's.
So you do get, you don't live in like a little echo chamber of just making sure that whoever you're listening to agrees with your overall.
No, I think, I think that you have to try to, I want to hear dissenting opinions, right? Because otherwise, if everybody's around you saying the same exact thing, then, how are you going to ever kind of get a new idea, right? So I don't agree with, I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with that I see, but, for better or worse, you want to hear what everybody's saying, right?
Yeah.
And try to be thoughtful about, about what's going on. But I mean, look, I remember back in January, I started seeing, because I watch Bloomberg Asia at night, and it covers the Asian markets, the Asian stock markets. And they started talking in January about some kind of a virus in China, or maybe it was early February. I'm not exactly sure when. And I started listening to this. I was like, and they don't have a cure for this thing, and it's like spreading. And I had, I don't remember what year it was that the bird flu, I guess H1N1 came out.
That was like the swine flu.
Swine flu, whatever. I had it, and I remember how sick I was, and I was like locked in my in the other room. And
Is this when you were in jail?
No, I was in my own house. Yeah. But yeah, it was horrible. I mean, I thought I was going to die. It was really, really bad. And I've never been
That's not
sick.
good.
Yeah, it was really, really, I was really sick. And I heard this thing going on. I was like, wow. And I started to track it. I started to listen to it like in February, early February, maybe even January. And I went out and I bought a whole bunch of food and stuff like that. Like and everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know.
You didn't want to let anyone else know? Like, let us know.
I said, there's this virus, going on. And they're like, what?
They're like, yeah, crazy man. Crazy.
I have nothing better to do at like 1 o'clock in the morning, but watch like Bloomberg Asia on, on TV. So I don't know. I'm always kind of trying to see stuff out there. Well,
I'll give you another perspective also. Back at that same time while you're watching Bloomberg Asia, my company makes our products, the Throby, in China. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. I have a contact in China who I've been working with for years, probably, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And he had sent me a link for PPE and rapid testing,
back in January.
Rapid test kits, not January. It was March, maybe the beginning of March, before kind of when we got wind here in our neck of the woods, because you didn't tell anyone.
I was going to call you and tell you what you knew.
That would have been nice. So by the time we heard, now that you were all stocked with food and toilet paper.
The one thing I did not do is hoard toilet paper. I got to say, I was like, why is everybody hoarding toilet paper? But
you must have a bidet. That's why.
No, I don't. But
you really need to get one. Actually,
I did hoard food though. I stocked everything. I mean, it looked like my house looked like a supermarket by, middle of February. No question about it.
What kind of food did you think that you would need if everything ran dry? What were you stocked with? What particular? For me, it would be Chef Boyardee ravioli in a can.
Yeah, I bought a lot of canned. Well, I didn't buy. Oh, you eat that stuff?
I love it. Full confessions. I love it.
I like Kraft macaroni and cheese. I haven't eaten it in a while, but that's if like on your final day of life, if you had your last meal, aside from a few other things, that's probably in there somewhere because
I'm so salivating right now.
Yeah, Kraft macaroni and cheese. But no, I bought a lot. Obviously I bought a lot of pasta, but I bought a lot of canned beans and chickpeas and all sorts of vegetables, and then a lot of frozen vegetables. I mostly vegetable, and then what else did I buy? I bought a lot of those Beyond Burgers.
Oh my gosh, are you a meatless person?
No, I eat meats. I eat meat, but I don't eat a lot of it. I do I like the Beyond Burger, so I just eat it. It's probably more healthy for you.
Is it? Is it though? I don't know. Like, I think it's got a lot of those GMOs. There was like a whole
really?
Debate. Yeah. What do you think? They make there's any vegetable on earth that actually tastes like a burger? They have to make it taste like a burger.
Well, no, it's plant protein. And no, I think it's pretty natural. I'll go back and look at the ingredients. I was pretty impressed with it. It tastes really good. I mean,
preservatives or flavoring.
It's not as good as the burger joint at the Park and Meridian Hotel. I mean, that burger is insane. And that's my favorite burger. But if I had to sit at home and, I'll eat those. I think they're good, with some grilled onions and tomato. It's good.
Gotta get some real cow.
I have those too. I have burgers also.
Good.
Just that. But yeah, no. So I stocked up on a lot of that frozen stuff.
Yeah. But so anyway, so I had like the opportunity to purchase containers full of PPE and the rapid testing kits that they were using in China. I have pictures of it and everything. I got pricing, and then I talked about it with my husband. We talked it over, and at that point, when everything started coming out with the virus, and they were saying how there's like holds at the port and containers were being held that were coming in from China because, the quote unquote, everything started in China,
right?
Supposedly. Well, and not supposedly, but whatever. I I was like, even if we spend tens of thousands to bring in inventory, 100,000 to bring in inventory, we may never get it. It may be seized at the port. There might be containers. The government may decide, you know what, great, you brought in PPE. We're going to be taking it from you and we need to distribute it at the hospitals. I don't know what they would pay me, if they would pay me.
Right.
Like this, it was a great opportunity, but there were a lot of questionable things. And the fact that China had those finger prick blood tests, the rapid testing
I didn't even know about those.
oh yeah, I could send you a picture. It's on my phone. I'll send
And
it
they
to
work?
you. Do they work? I don't know. I mean, I would assume so if that's what they were producing, but I doubt, I can't vouch for anything, but I doubt that they'd be sending me a whole bunch of pretend tests.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it was hectic. I mean, I remember I went the first week in March. We were debating. Steve and I were our friend Steve. We were going out to Colorado to go skiing, and we were debating whether we should go, we shouldn't go, we should go. And then we said, okay, let's go, and we'll just we had the N95 masks and gloves, and we got on the plane back then. And I remember walking in the airport, we were standing on the security line, and we had masks on. And this was the first week in March, and nobody else was wearing masks except us. And people were making fun of us in line. They were just like, oh, and trying to pretending to cough on us. Yeah. And we got on the plane and flew to Colorado. And our first day skiing, there were no cases, I guess, at that time in Colorado. And we got on this chairlift, and we got an alert on our phone that said we were at the Keystone Resort, and it said the first case in Colorado, the first case in that county or something. And it said, oh, at the Keystone Resort. And we're like, oh, you got to be kidding. And so we got on the plane that night, jumped right back on the plane, and came back to New York. One day.
Didn't even chance it.
No, because we got, freaked out,
Yeah.
Nobody knew anything. I mean, you thought that anything you touched could have it, and
right. We thought all surfaces could contain it. How long does it live on surfaces? Just, leave everything out on the porch for 7 days and then we'll take a look at it.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It was hectic.
So did you guys have COVID? Did it run through your household or any friends or whatever? Because it was in our house. My husband had it and daughter had it. I didn't get it.
No. See, I didn't get it either. I think it's because of where we grew up. I think that we were exposed to so much bad stuff.
I know, but my husband grew up in Russia for the first 8 years of his
really?
life. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine.
Breakfast over there, I think, right?
Maybe it was the vodka that killed all the germs going down. Actually, that's what I tried to do when the pandemic had started. I'm like, totally, vodka kills COVID. So let me just drink more. Yeah. Now I'm trying to break the habit of my 4 o'clock vodka drink because I thought that would be medicinal and prophylactic and therapeutic all at the same time.
And it's not?
Well, now it's just a habit.
Right. It's not a bad habit. It's all right. You're fine.
Not a great habit.
It's funny because my closest friends are obviously the people that we grew up with, and we still remain very close. And we talk all the time, and none of us have had it. And of course, we're pretty strict. Like I really haven't. I did go to Colorado in March that first week, and I have been on a plane twice over the past month or so. But other than that, I really kind of don't do a lot. So we've been keeping it pretty tight, and we haven't gotten it. But nobody that we grew up with that I know of has gotten COVID.
So yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it was something having to do with upstate New York.
It's the water. I think we had really good water for years.
Nice, rusty. No, it was good water.
It's the best water. What are you talking about?
We were in the mountains.
Yeah, no, it was great.
It was great. If you were to raise a family and had an opportunity to do it back in the day when we were young, or even our parents were young, would you do it all over again upstate?
Would I grow up upstate?
Would you raise your family the same way that you grew up if you had that perfect opportunity? Because like we have that opportunity out here in Millstone, and it's just different. It's the We have property, we have house, we have things that we had when I was growing up, but we just don't have that tight little small town, multi-generational thing. And if I had my chance, I would probably want my kids to have that, have the multi-generational.
Right. I think that a big component of that is the online stuff and the phone and the social media. In order for us to talk to each other, I mean, we all had our separate phone lines in our house because our parents couldn't stand the fact that we would hog the phone all day, right?
Right. I was 13 years old and I got my own phone number. It was great. I
You
still
remember your phone
have my
number?
phone.
Do you remember your phone number? Come on,
No,
I have to remember your phone number
I
now.
don't. I
It
don't.
was 434-5519. It went into my sister and I had the upstairs, and we had one phone up there.
I probably pranked you a bunch of times.
Or did the emergency break-in?
No, I never did that.
Remember the emergency break-in?
Yeah, you'd have to talk to the operator, and there was
Right.
a real operator that was like,
Yeah. No, but I think that we had to, as you know, growing up, we had to engage with each other. We had to go to somebody's house, or we had to go,
Mhm.
we hung out with each other, right? Now, like my daughters, 90% of and of course over COVID, it's different, but even before that, a lot of their engagement is FaceTime and Snapchat, and everything is kind of done, over the phone. And they don't call each other either, right?
Yeah.
The kids these days, they don't pick up the phone and call each other. They snap or Snapchat or something like that. So I mean, that tight knit community, I think that we were all forced together just because that's how, right?
Yeah.
Grew up.
Yeah. And
And
and there wasn't a huge, the phones and the video games, they were like time sucks. And you
right.
would be outside playing with your friends and you'd have to engage with the neighborhood friend, that
Mhm.
nobody saw, or you'd read a book if you didn't want to go outside. But yeah, I mean, not to say that the phones and the video games are bad, because it certainly has. I mean, I think my kids are much smarter than I was.
More aware.
Well, smarter. Like I feel like they can, if they need to change a tire, they're they have more information at their disposal. They're more resourceful. How about that?
They are more, yeah, because everything's at their fingertips. We
And
actually,
they
I mean,
could learn it in a second.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Look, there's so much information. I think they're also that generation. I have faith in that generation. I see my daughters, um, you know, they're they're much more worldly. They're much more tolerant. They're much more, socially kind of integrated with everybody. I mean, we grew up in a very small town, so we were like that. I felt like our community was very tight knit, and it didn't matter, kind of where you were on the economic ladder, or where you were, like whether you're black or white or Hispanic, or everybody was kind of together. So we grew up that way, but a lot of kids don't, I think. And what I do see is that their generation is much more kind of um, accepting of everything, and much more conscious about the environment, and kind of promoting each other. And I just feel like that generation is going to be a good generation, even though I think their social skills are probably, lacking because they don't get together enough.
Yeah.
That's just us old people saying that, right? And maybe they're better than we are. I don't know.
You know what? Now that you're like a worldly professional, because you traveled the world as a golf pro, and you've done your thing in New York and Manhattan, and I think you mentioned once that you were exploring other cities as well.
Mhm.
You've worked with a lot of people. You've had to schmooze an awful lot, I'm sure. What do you tell your kids? What do you advise your kids when it comes to starting to enter into the business world? Like what's some advice that you give to just to make sure that they're not like on your phone, when they're at a business meeting or something like that? I mean, that's obvious, but what do you think helped you get ahead in making the relationships? Or
Honestly, I think it's because we grew up in a small town, and everybody knew your business, and you weren't going to BS anybody, right? Because like no one was going to kind of look at you, and if you were lying, or if you were trying to BS somebody, they would call you out immediately, because we all knew each other. So
yeah,
there was
or they'd call your mom.
right. Well, yeah, and so I think carrying that into business, especially in New York. I mean, New York is a big international city, and you play at the highest levels here. But that kind of small town, be honest, do what you say you're going to do. Don't try to, don't get a reputation of, doing things that are, that are, kind of, you know,
Slimy.
well, it's not even slime. It's just, be honest about it and be upfront, be transparent, and don't lie to people. And if you do that, you're going to make mistakes along the way. Everybody does during business, right? But, you don't blame other people, and you don't kind of get the reputation that you're going to be, kind of snaky and retrade people and things like that. If you just, and I think that that's ingrained in us, right? Because that's how we grew up. Mm-hmm. And so if I were to tell my kids in business what to do, is just, be honest with everybody that you deal with, and, your reputation is everything, right? If you don't have this, by the way, New York is a very small town, and, it's a big city, but it's a small town also. And as a real estate developer in the town, who the good guys are and who kind of the not so good guys are, in terms of like, who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. And even though it's a big city, everybody kind of knows each other. So your reputation is everything. And that's how I've always felt. So, I just try to, I just try to maintain a good, solid reputation, and, kind of do as best I can, build as good a building as I can build, and don't, try to screw people over, and just kind of be honest with everybody and do what you can do. I think that's how we grew up.
You're right. My grandfather once, a name came up from back in my grandfather's grade school, and he must have been in his 80s. Mm-hmm. And he basically, what he said was, "Oh my gosh, she was a hoa." And I was like, "A what? A hoa?" She was a loose girl. She was, she'd get around. And he remembered that back from grade school because her reputation was she was a hoa back in school. And he's like in his 80s. And that was the first thing that came to mind. So reputation is everything. You're 100% right. And I tell that to my kids as well. Absolutely.
That's everything. Yeah. I mean, because it doesn't matter. Look, it doesn't matter how big you get or how much money you have, or, it just doesn't matter. If you're doing a transaction with somebody, if you're signing a contract with somebody, if you're hiring somebody to do work with you, they have to know that, if they sign a contract for $1, that you're going to pay them $1 if they do the work, right? And if they go into the deal, it works against you too. Because I know plenty of guys that, if they're going to go to work with somebody that has a reputation for kind of not paying or something like that, they're going to charge them more, because they know at the end of the day, they're going to get iced for a certain percentage of it anyway. And so it works against you to begin with. And, I think if you're just straight with people as you go along, and, look, all the people that I've worked with for 25 years, the architects, the engineers, the consultants, probably 80% of them I've been working with since the late 90s, over and over and over again. And it's my team, right? And they're the top guys in the city. I mean, my engineers and architects are all, name brand guys. And they do the best work. And I've been working for a long time. And, they know what to expect from me, and I know what to expect from them.
Right.
And I have a lot of great relationships that are very, very deeply rooted, for years in the city.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, you know what? Trying to pass on our knowledge that, what we've experienced to our kids is challenging. They don't see it just yet. I always tell my son, even in his college classes, make sure that you go up to, and this sounds like kiss ass or whatever, but ask a question, make yourself visible to the professor, to the teacher, to the teacher's assistant, because they'll know that you care. Like if you ask a question, all of a sudden they'll answer it and be like, "Oh, that kid is actually either paying attention to what I'm saying, or, cares about the same subject as well." And then you immediately get a bond. So, shaking a hand of someone, or making eye contact, engaging in any sort of form of conversation, just so they remember your face, or remember your name, or remember the sound of your voice, or your laugh, or something that humanizes the experience. Right. That's definitely something I try and impart on my kids for their future.
But we also, we grew up in a resort area, right? So everybody worked in the hotels, and everybody was kind of, trying to make $1, whether it was, I don't know, as a bellhop or a bartender, or, lifeguard or something. You're always kind of interacting with the guests of the hotel.
Yeah, with a smile, because they don't want to see a puss on a face or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that just by the nature of doing that for our whole childhood, And working in the hotels, you're always kind of with people and trying to engage with people. And I think it goes back to, it didn't matter whether you didn't realize whether the guest was coming in, in a procession of limos, or he drove his little car up there and got a room for the night. None of it mattered. You were treating everybody the same and trying to be gracious and thoughtful to everybody.
Right.
And that was how we made our high school money, by, buying, working in these hotels and being in these situations. And I think growing up in those is a blessing to be able to do that, because you just learn how to engage with people and you're comfortable with everybody. We were comfortable with everybody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's more impressive or less impressive. You're just comfortable with everybody.
Yeah.
So,
That's
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if, like, I think the one thing, if I had to say, this younger generation is, it's going to be the interpersonal connections face to face, I think is a little bit different than us. I don't know if it's better or worse, but because the older generation always thinks that the younger generation is screwed up somehow, right? I mean, our parents probably thought that about us. Their parents thought these hippies in the 60s, that's wrong with them. Like everybody, that's always like that. But we'll see what happens with them. I'm hoping that they, that they don't, that kind of that face-to-face interaction doesn't go away. And it's interesting because now that, like, our last project, we're in the middle of a design. Actually, we're at the end of the design of this new project in Manhattan, and I'm getting blinded here. Sorry.
just hold your hand up there for the rest of the time.
No, I put another thing up. So, where should I move?
Go ahead, fix it.
Is it? Can you see me?
I can see you. I can see the light right on your,
like right here, right here.
I
know. Hold on. What can I do? You know what? Maybe if I turn it this way more. Is that better?
It's fine for me.
Okay. I was like getting blinded. So anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so we're in the middle of design on this project in the city, and COVID hits, right? And so we have to start working via Zoom and working online, and all of the architects and designers and engineers and everybody kind of went home and they started working from home, and we designed this entire building online. And the drawings were all sent to me, and I would review them, and we would get on Zoom calls and we would go through them, and we were doing all these things. And we designed a 21-story, 160 unit apartment building completely online. And
was that enjoyable?
Look, I'm a little bit old school. I like to kind of get in a room with everybody and go through the drawings. But when we put it up on Zoom, we did have everybody there. And, the architect would kind of go through this and say, what about this? What about this? And you'd have everybody be able to, kind of put input. So it worked, and it worked fine. And actually the drawings are really, really good. I mean, they're very tight. So
do you feel that you missed out on any sort of creative pool of ideas that would have been generated? Do you think that Zoom is a decent substitute for, that synergy that usually happens in a group of people? I mean, I think that that's, getting back to Manhattan and everything, there's such a pool of talent. It's a shame to miss out on that.
Well, yeah, I miss out on, I think the thing I miss most is going out with the creative people that I work with, and kind of, having a drink or a dinner or something, and like just talking about things that we've seen and kind of brainstorming, coming up with stuff, right? What they see in the market, or what they see at some trade show, or what, some idea that they have.
Right.
It comes out of more of a lunch or a dinner or drinks, as opposed to kind of being on a Zoom, right? So that type of stuff I do miss, and I think that that's an important part of it. When I was kind of conceiving of my downtown building, and I kind of was thinking, what do I want this to be? I remember spending time down in right around Spring Street and walking around the galleries and things like that, and getting an idea for kind of what I wanted this building downtown to be. And I remember walking into the Morrison Hotel Gallery, which was they specialize in fine art photography. So they have all of these old, not too old, I mean, 70s and 80s rock and roll photographs of the Doors and the Stones, and Elton John and the Ramones and things like that, and original pieces that are in the gallery. And I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool in an amenity space, put this giant picture of whatever it was.
Hmm. And that wouldn't have come to you unless you were strolling and opening your mind for
Right.
inspiration and ideas. And yeah.
Yeah. After spending like an afternoon at, at, whatever cafe I was at, and kind of just getting the flavor of the neighborhood and figuring out kind of what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And I end up in this gallery and one thing. So then I called up my interior designer, this guy, Andre Escobar, who's one of the top interior designers in the city. And I said, I'm kind of thinking of doing this building as an art gallery. I want this to be 23 stories of rotating art gallery. How do we do it? And I said, I'm thinking of really doing kind of an ode to New York, where it's all New York centric art and music based photography from the 70s and the 80s, when Basquiat and Warhol, and when the creativity was really flowing in the city, right?
Right.
And he said, give me 2 weeks, I got it. And he came back to me with a set of mood boards based on that conversation, and we created an entire building. And it's the first fully curated building in Manhattan, residential building in Manhattan, and it's a cool building, and people love being there. And that's the one I said that was, it's like 98% occupied even through COVID, just because it's a really interesting building to be in, because we have art on every floor, and then every few months the photographs from that floor rotate up one floor. So if you're living on the 12th floor,
Oh, that is cool.
so and people walk around the building with glasses of wine, and they bring their friends, and they stroll through the
Right.
building, look at all the so that all came from just on a
That's fantastic.
Friday afternoon, at Balthazar. I think I was at Balthazar, like having, oysters and wine with a friend, and went to the galleries, and that whole building came out of that.
Yeah.
So
I think I recall like a lamp. It was like a woman, and it was a lamp, and it had, words writing all over the lamp. There was a picture of your the apartment building, and it had like those art pieces in it, and there was like this one lamp. That was years ago when it was posted, probably back in the day when you were still using Facebook.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
may have commented on that lamp.
so
It's like
that
literally a
lamp.
woman's body.
Yeah, that lamp was. There's a designer in London called Jimmy Martin. It's two partners, Jimmy and Martin, and they're phenomenal custom furniture designers, and they're very rock and roll. They've designed for Madonna and things like that.
That was so cool. That
Yeah,
building.
and they've done. I mean, we bought a lot of pieces from them. I bought a lot of custom furniture for that building. One of the chairs, they called me and said, what song lyrics do you want hand painted on the chair? And so I picked out a Bowie song and I think a Prince song, and in the lobby, I mean, there's this beautiful chair, and it's got the lyrics from the two songs. So it's just a cool kind of downtown, artsy kind of rock and roll building and all of the photographies from the 70s and 80s, and the portfolios of the photographers that I got to look at, because we chose probably 120 photographs from 5 or 6 different pretty famous photographers, and going into their archives and their studios and looking through the stuff that they had that nobody's ever seen. Insane stuff, like from in the bathroom at CBGB's at 2:00 in the morning, they're shooting, like these, people like partying in the bathrooms and backstage. And there's a picture of one guy had, I think it was Alan Tannenbaum, had a picture of Ozzy Osbourne in the bathtub at the Pierre Hotel with a bottle of champagne and a smoke, and he got the picture, right? Just crazy stuff like that. And
Yeah. Our kids will never know what it's like for photographers to not even know what they've captured yet until they
right,
go in the developing room, and then all of a sudden they start to see this image surface, and they're like, oh my God, this was fantastic.
right, yeah, no, it's so that, getting back to kind of the city, I mean, that's the type of creative spark that, whether it's a real estate developer, I mean, that's kind of my process. I do stuff like that to kind of figure out what I want to do with buildings. I just, it's kind of a creative process. Or just artists and designers and people that work in the city, restaurateurs and nightclub. I mean, you have to have that energy, and you have to kind of be there to get that creativity. It's a lot more difficult when you miss stuff
Yeah.
if you're not there. I mean, you could still do it. We designed this building, remotely, and I worked with a great interior design firm, and we came up with some really cool stuff. But it was a different process.
Yeah. Are you guys thinking about floor plans and the next 10 years, 15 years down the line with what the city is going to look like if people are wanting to still take advantage of the city life and the nightlife in Manhattan, yet work, in Houston, Texas, and do it over Zoom, because companies are now a lot more, you know, able to give you remote jobs and willing to have people work
Right.
remotely. So
Yeah.
you can almost kind of live anywhere. People are going to still want to live in the city because it's electric. And, you know, so
Well,
are you thinking of different floor plans for apartment rentals?
absolutely. Yeah. I did that actually. I started that in the downtown building in 2000, let me think, 2013 was when we started designing that building. And because we were in the financial district, my thought was, there's a lot of people, and this is from, we had friends that work in the financial industry. If you're at one of the finance firms, you're working till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night a lot of times, or the law firms or whoever else. I mean, New York just you walk through the city at 11 o'clock at night and there's plenty of lights on in the office buildings, right?
Mhm.
So my thought was, all right, we're downtown, we're in the financial district. Let's do a lot of layouts where you can have a home office and you can work from home. And that'll do two things. One, it could be a pied-à-terre situation where people can kind of commute in and out and they'd have a place to work if they lived at our apartment building.
That means
But
walk to work, like pied-à-terre, walk.
pied-à-terre is like, it's a flat in the city that you don't actually live at full time. It's kind of a second.
Oh, okay.
So if you have that situation, or if you were just kind of a young, not so young, but if you were working in an industry where you had to work late at night and you had the choice of coming home and working, from 8 o'clock until 1 o'clock in the morning in your apartment, or working from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning in the office building, you'd probably want to come home,
Mhm.
right? So we created a lot of layouts in that building that had either a one bedroom with a home office or a studio with an area where you can set up a desk and a computer. So we've been thinking that way since 2013. And those apartments were the most successful layouts in those buildings, in that building and in the one we did in Queens after that. They were the ones that really kind of went quickly. So in this new building, I just stayed with that same theme. And now it's way more, we had no idea this was going to happen, but it's way more prevalent now that people are going to be working from home. So a lot of the layouts, well, almost all of the layouts that we did in this new building have some piece of the apartment that you can work from home in. And I think that's important. Like, the other thing is all of our amenity spaces are, wired for internet access, and they're comfortable, and there's a lot of chairs with kind of big armrests so you could take your laptop and kind of sit there. And you're always kind of thinking about where the market's going instead of where it is now, like where it's really going to go. And I think that also helped that building downtown, besides really the kind of cool interior design. I think the layouts in that building, because at the end of the day, people rent layouts, right? And the
Yeah.
layouts in that building really kept the building full.
Mhm.
It was an important part of it, I think. So
Yeah.
we're just continuing with that. And then, it'll be interesting to see. I think a lot of people will spend a couple of days a week at home and a couple of days a week in the office.
Yeah, I mean, that's ideal. That would be perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad thing, unless you're an office building owner.
What sort of what's the hottest thing in apartment buildings right now? If you're building a new apartment building, you have you have a gym, obviously, not that that's a requirement, but new apartment buildings have fitness centers. Some places have pools on the roof. What's like the hottest thing that you could add to make yours? Like, should it be a water slide that goes outside from the roof, outside onto the street, but above, like 20 stories above, and then comes back in?
I'm getting blinded again. I'm sorry. Is it this side? Yeah, it is, right? Why? I really want to put this up. Give me 1 second. It's driving me bananas. I'm sorry.
I'm like taking up your entire afternoon. I'm sorry.
Nothing to do, Jess. It's Saturday. I'm fine. I wish I had more to do. We're going to turn this into a cocktail hour soon.
I know.
And now it should be good.
Okay. What is the best thing that you can create in new apartment buildings that might draw people into, to what you're creating as a developer? And you have all the inspiration in the world. What are you inspired by? Las Vegas hotels, any of the attractions, or people looking for just, I guess the word attractions really does fit it.
I think interior design is important to create a mood, right? So when you are in these amenity spaces, whether it's kind of a modern design or real eclectic design or a natural kind of natural materials, wood and things like that, I think that a really successful interior design creates a mood. And I always go back when we first started going to South Beach, and I guess in the early 90s. And we would go to the Delano Hotel. And you walk into the Delano lobby, and Philippe Stark and Ian Schrager created this when you walked in the lobby, there was a feeling, you had this kind of calm come over you because of the flowing draperies and things like that. And it just felt like you walked into something, and it made you feel something. So I always work with interior designers and say, listen, I don't care. Not that I don't care. When we're going for this design, whatever it may be for that particular building, I want you to create so that when you walk in, I want there to be a feeling in the room, whatever that may be, whatever we're going for. So I think if you do that, it's successful. I think that the people that we're building for as we go along, every building is different. It's just kind of what I'm inspired by. Right now, I'm inspired by a lot of like natural stuff. So I love the ski lodge feel. I love the wood, the stone, the coziness of a ski lodge.
You're definitely talking aesthetic for
Aesthetic.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's
hopefully
aesthetic.
people can appreciate that if they're not walking through the lobby, and the amenity rooms with their phone in their hands, hopefully they're taking it all in.
And you want them to bring their friends to their building, and you want their friends to go, wow, this is cool. You want them to kind of be proud that because you have to remember, I always view it this way. The amenity spaces in the buildings that I build, I always put them on the top floor of the building. It's the penthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody gets a penthouse, right? Everybody gets a big living room, and everybody gets a game room, and everybody gets a lounge, and an outdoor roof deck. And so everybody has a penthouse. So when they bring their friends over to the penthouse, right, you want it to be really impressive. And I think that where we're going now is a lot of natural materials, wood beams. I have fireplaces in every amenity space that we build.
Fireplaces are good. That sets a nice tone. Is
Yeah.
there do you do anything with the olfactory senses? Do you pump in nice smells, or because actually my girlfriend went to a hotel on vacation. She called them and she's like, the smell of the hotel made me calm. It made me feel amazing. And I want to know where I can buy it. She actually bought an entire system that, pumps. It's not those little things that go, those things that every 9 minutes it like, and you can't be in front of it because then it like blinds you. But it was a whole system that the hotel uses to pump in a certain amazing smell.
Yep. Yeah, we're putting that in the new building. I haven't done it yet. This is the first building we're doing it in, but it will be in the lobby.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about whether we're going to do it upstairs in the amenity floor yet, but it'll be in the lobby for sure.
Right near the water slide.
Near the water slide, yeah. I was thinking, one of the things that it's not going to be in this building, but I always see like these these giant aquariums.
Yeah,
Imagine having a huge lobby that's just surrounded by like you're like at the Atlantis where you walk in and you're just surrounded by fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like what's gonna make you guys stand out? What's the thing that's all of a sudden, oh, like, that's a Scott Aaron building, or, what's gonna be your signature? Maybe it is the giant aquarium or the water slide, or, whatever it is. You have to start making your mark, like that's your signature building.
Yeah, I think, well, so far, I think my signature, I don't know if it's a signature, but I continually reuse fine art photography in my buildings. Like
Okay.
that's one thing that I've done consistently. And we use photographs from local photographers, New York-based photographers. If I were to do something in Miami, it would be Miami-based photographers. But whatever goes with what we're doing in that building, like the downtown building was, art and music and 70s and 80s New York City, kind of that scene. So those were the photographs that we used. At Roosevelt Park in Queens, which is another building we built, you know, the idea behind the building was very nature oriented and park oriented, and we had a huge 15,000 square foot outdoor roof deck that was fully landscaped with amazing plantings and things like that. So it was a lot of flowers and trees and plants, and so the photography that we worked with was taken from local photographers who photographed all of the parks in Queens in the winter and the fall and the summer. Amazing, amazing photography. And so, those are the photographs that we use throughout that building. And that, again, is also kind of a gallery situation. So we're going to do the same thing in this new building. It's in Murray Hill. I haven't decided on the photography yet, but we're going to use that as well here. And this is the idea behind this is more kind of modern Aspen, kind of ski lodge, but much more contemporary, not, wood beams and things like that. But,
Is there going to be one giant picture of like you and Steve on the chairlift, like some kind of selfie with a gorgeous mountain range behind it?
Absolutely. And that's going to be right on the front desk, with a beer and a Bloody Mary and, full beard and ski outfit. Yeah, absolutely. Ski jackets. No, I haven't figured out the photography yet, but that'll be part of it.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool building. It's an interesting process to go through when you're not in the same room with the designers,
mm-hmm.
and you're doing everything kind of over the computer, because we weren't really able to get in the same room a lot. We did in the beginning until COVID hit, but but the design came out great. I love it. It's really, it's not too backwoods country,
mm-hmm.
ski
right.
area. It's more very contemporary Aspen, cool and
yeah, no, sounds great. And there's still investors are still wanting to invest in new apartment buildings in the city, and they feel that future occupancy numbers aren't going to suffer because of COVID right now. Is there still a lot of development currently going on? New development, like even as new as anything starting, permits being handed out from this past summer?
2020 was actually construction-wise pretty busy.
Because of pre-existing projects that needed to continue, or so I'm talking about new projects that may have either been put on hold, or they said, we're not going to do the deal. Like, we're not confident that Manhattan is going to be.
There's definitely some of that. I mean, look, nobody knows what the future holds. I think that as a developer, you want to zig when everybody else zags. So if people are leaving New York, that's what I want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Let them go to Florida, let them go to Austin, let them go, North Carolina, wherever. Good, go. That means that we're going to have the room to do what we need to do. Not that I want people to leave, but if look, if you're going to stay in the city, you're going to be rewarded because the city is going to come back, and we're going to have everything that we had. And I think it's an important thing to do. A lot of people that did well here and now that are leaving, and they're, it's tough in the city. It's going to be tough for the next couple of years, But those of us who are staying and those of us who are dedicated to the city, I think will benefit from it, benefit from what the city is, and it'll come back. It's always come back, and it'll come back again. I think that it's a tough place to invest in right now. um, for people who don't know it. Like if you're a pension fund from wherever, and you see images on TV of the way the city is now, and the story that's being written about the city right now is not a good one, right? From a PR perspective, you're hesitant to put your pension fund's money into the city right now. There's no question. You kind of want to sit back and wait it out and see what happens, right? But for those of us who are in the city and know the buildings and know the clientele and know the tenants and know the people who work and live in the city, I have no doubt that, look, it's going to get younger. I think it'll get younger. I think that this is my dumb prediction, but I remember back in the 90s when there were, the garbage didn't get picked up all the time. There was a homeless problem. There were issues with, they hadn't figured out how to treat homeless people in terms of mental health and everything else. That got figured out later, right? And became better over the years. But back then it wasn't great. And, it was a dirtier city, right? It was a younger city too. And all the young people came in and you slept on your friend's couch until you got a job, and you ran around trying to find an apartment. I remember studio apartments were $1,000, right? That's kind of the benchmark.
Right.
And you couldn't find a studio apartment. You couldn't find an apartment to rent because everybody was in the city renting, right? Because nobody would buy in the city at that time. There was very few people that would buy. So, and interest rates at the time were like, I guess, mid single digits, 6, 7, 8%, if I remember correctly. So it was a renter's city, right? And that's because young people don't really care that, that's a little dirtier or maybe a little more dangerous than it should be, or whatever it was back then, right? They just wanted to come in, get their career started, go out to the bars, meet a girl, meet a guy, party, go to the clubs, do the nightlife. And that's how the younger people lived. Once you had kids and you got married and you had kids and stuff like that, there were groups of people that moved out to the suburbs and there were groups of people that stayed. But at that point, you had the option to stay because the city was much safer. In the early to mid 2000s, it started becoming a lot safer. People actually had the option now. We're going to, a lot of people, I mean, there was always people that lived in the city, grew up there, and raised their families in the city. But a lot more people started buying condos. Interest rates came down. People who were going to rent bought and just decided to stay. I have a lot of friends in the city that their plan was always to move out to Long Island or to Westchester, Connecticut, and they stayed, because the schools were good and it was safe, and their kids wanted to grow up in the city. So I think that the people who have kids and left and went to the suburbs, some of them will come back. I do know a lot of people that are actually starting to go back now and look for apartments and things like that. And some of them will just stay in the suburbs, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think you'll ever stop the flow of young, kind of not aggressive, but young, spirited people trying to get their career started, just got out of college. Now's their opportunity to come to New York, right? And work in New York and be in New York and experience New York. It's going to be a little bit more affordable, right? Yeah. Because apartment prices have come way down. And I just think the city's going to get younger. The bars I can imagine what it's going to be like in the fall, when the bars start opening up, and it's going to be insane. It's going to be a big party. And I think that that's what will draw people back, that kind of a situation. And it's just it's going to be younger. It's going to be a renter city for a while.
I hope it comes back. I hope the life comes back. There's nothing like New York City. There's nothing like Manhattan. Nope. I had it mid 90s. We, right out of college, every weekend we were in the city.
Yeah.
Going to all the bars and doing the whole thing. It's a great life. I hope the crime gets under control. Mm-hmm. City will come under new management soon. We have a new president in town. I don't, whatever is going to be is going to be. It's thrived, and then it's been in the shitter, and then it's thrived again. I mean, to be honest with you, we were in the theater district. We were 42nd Street, that whole area, and it smelled like raw sewage. Yeah. Before the pandemic, it was hideous. It was disgusting. And a lot of people escape the city because it stinks. So, there is an overhaul that needs to happen. But, like any busy stadium after a game, once everyone clears out, then the garbage gets swept up, and, maybe they hose off all the seats and the floors, and
Mhm.
maybe that's what needs to happen with Manhattan at this time, and with less people there, they can clean up the subway system, clean up the streets, clean up the neighborhoods, and really just get shit ready for a better experience.
Yeah, look, it's a complicated city, right? Manhattan is a little different than Queens. It's a little different than Brooklyn. Um, it's a little different than the Bronx. And every borough has its personality.
Hmm.
And every borough um, is special in its own. I mean, every borough has got great stuff in it that, and they're all neighborhoods, right? So, but I think the tourists mainly come to Manhattan, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah. No one's coming from, like other countries to go visit Queens.
well, they do now. The restaurant scene in Queens is actually pretty insane. Like, it's really good.
Really?
Oh my God, the restaurants in Queens are top notch. Yeah, they really are.
Sorry,
So,
no offense to Queens.
no, we built a building there, and because the ethnic diversity in Queens is amazing, right? So you have all of these great restaurants from all over the world where, the grandmother's cooking, and I mean the food is stuff that I've had Tibetan momos, and I mean that was my keyboard. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, no, I mean I've had such incredible food out in Queens that you don't really find in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So the point of it is that it's complicated and it takes really good management. And I'm hoping that they, after this pandemic, they can, or even during the next 12
Yeah.
months, they can kind of figure out how to promote the city and get people back into it.
Yeah. Here's
And
one last question, because you've given me so much of your time and brain power. You must be exhausted.
no, okay.
Um, do you, from having developed stuff in Manhattan, buildings, giant buildings, what's the difference between a building and a skyscraper and a high rise? I guess these are questions that keep me up at night.
Yeah, it's just the definitions are, it depends on how many stories you build. I mean, a skyscraper, I don't know if there's an actual definition. I guess there is. It's probably over a certain amount of stories.
What's a high rise versus a regular building?
I think in the zoning code, I believe a high rise is over, I want to say 10 stories,
Okay.
12 stories. Don't quote me on that. I have to
I
go back.
won't. I won't.
But yeah, no, I think it's a zoning definition. And they are in different zoning districts in the city. You can build um, a multiple. The way it works in the city is you have a piece of land. So if it's 10,000 square feet, 100 by 100, right? In certain areas, you can build 4 times that floor plate. So you can build 40,000 square feet. In some places, you can build 10 times that floor plate, which is
Hmm.
100,000 square feet. And it just depends on where you are in the city. In the West Village, there are height limitations. In Chelsea, there are height limitations. In Midtown or downtown, there are less areas have height limitations, so you can build these gigantic skyscrapers.
Hmm.
So it really depends on where in the city you are and what the
Sure.
zoning says, and
Yep.
that's how the different size buildings are defined. And you can do low rise, high rise, mid rise, or skyscraper.
Oh, there's a mid rise. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's all. I
Oh,
mean, we don't get too technical when we're
yeah.
building. You kind of look and you go, oh, that's an R10. You can build 10 times, 10 times the floor plate, and get bonuses for this and that, whatever.
So
But
can you take your skill set and go build elsewhere? If all else fails, can you go and build somewhere else? Like,
yeah,
certain lawyers are only licensed to practice in certain states, or, what have you. Is your skill set movable? Are you modular?
oh yeah. As a matter of fact, I think that being a New York developer is probably the toughest. Maybe in Hong Kong it's a little bit more difficult because the density. So
Hmm.
we can build really, really big buildings on very, very small pieces of land, right? And throughout the rest of the country, you don't really see that. If you're in Denver or you're in Raleigh, Durham, or you're in Florida, you're not stacked up against each other like you are in New York. So our skill set is, if you give me, 4 acres to build on, that's just like, there's so much room You
So
know,
everything to you as a developer is like a blank canvas, and
oh yeah,
you've tackled, challenging projects in Manhattan. Everything else is just a blank canvas. You
yeah.
would hope that whoever needs to be certified in building in Colorado, or the architect, or the those people know all the intricacies of that, land and
Yeah, yeah, no, look,
building in there. But as a developer, you're more of the idea guy and the
it's a friend of mine said to me who's a developer, it's an art, not a science.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So the science is taken care of by the engineers and the the consultants and the architects and engineers. The science of kind of the angles and all this other stuff and how do you build a building. And I understand all of that and I know how to work with that to create something, but the technical stuff is not what I do. I have
Right.
to understand the technical stuff and I have to be able to translate that into something that people want to live in or people want to stay in if it's a hotel or people want to buy if it's a condo. But where my value is created is to take a piece of land that is 100 by 100 next door to another piece of land that's 100 by 100. And we're both given the same envelope and the same zoning that we can build a building in. And how am I going to make the tenant go from this building over to my building?
Right.
Right?
And
How am I going to
it
beat that?
all ends with the water slide.
And if you have a water slide that goes from apartment to apartment, who needs an elevator?
Yeah.
Right?
Really easy to move your stuff. Just
That's a great
send
COVID
it
thing
down.
because now you don't have to get into an elevator. You can just take the water slide right down to the lobby.
There you go.
Right? Jess, we got to collaborate on a building. This is perfect.
I know. It'll be a whole nother action park.
Well, if you think about it, like what exactly for Action Park? We'll have to give out bandages and PPE.
Right.
Did you see the
Yes.
documentary on that?
That was horrifying. And I'm pretty sure that I was on a couple of those things.
Getting back to our parents didn't really care about us. They let us go to Action Park, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to why do you pay $400 a night to stay in an Ian Schrager hotel, right? Whether it used to be, whether it was the Hudson or whether it was the Delano or the Clift or any of these, those hotels in a smaller room, right? Than you would in, say, the Marriott with a bigger room. Not that there's anything wrong with the Marriott, but in the bigger room next door, you're paying $300 for the night, right? Why? Because the style that Ian Schrager produced in his hotels with his interior designers and even his architects and engineers, they created something that was more attractive than this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You paid more for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of like, my whole idea is like, I want to do that in residential. So I when I'm conceiving of something, I definitely go out and look what's out there and make sure I don't do any of that. You know what I mean? So that's what we're working on. Whether it's layouts, whether it's interior design, whether it's exterior design, whatever it may be, the image of that building has to be different than the other guys.
Right.
Otherwise, you just, when you remember, like you go to rent an apartment or you go to buy a house and you look at 7 of them or 12 of them with a broker, one of them has to stand out or else it's just one big mess.
Right.
And so we want to stand out, and that's the fun part of it. Like otherwise, I'm building the same stuff that everybody else is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Well, keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like you enjoy it, and it's hopefully it's fun for you.
Yeah.
And New York City will be back. If not, just take an opportunity with the low interest rates and all of the real estate that may be discounted right now, and create new projects for yourself to occupy your time.
That's what we're trying to do.
Waiting for everyone to return.
They're coming back. Build it and they will come.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Famous last words.
Vaccinate and they will come.
Are you going to take the shot? If I had the shot right here for you, and are you going to get the jab?
I would drink it.
Really?
Right? Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'd take it.
I'm not afraid of it. How could you be? It's one of the easiest vaccines that they've produced. They've been producing this type of a vaccine forever. That's why they went so quickly. I mean, they know how to do what they're doing. I think the new Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a one-shot vaccine too.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out.
And I don't think it has to be stored at such, cold temperatures. And
Look, the side effects from the potential side effects, I'm like an incessant reader of
Mhm.
the stuff. The potential side effects of a vaccine are way less dangerous than getting COVID, and the potential long-term effects. They're seeing like high percentages of heart abnormalities. And I have friends, perfectly healthy friends, who have had it, that have had heart attacks afterward. One friend has permanent lung damage. I
Mm,
mean, and they're young. They're, in their 40s and 50s, perfectly healthy, work out, eat well, the whole thing,
yeah,
never had health issues. They've got real problems.
yeah,
So, and there are plenty of people that aren't going to have any problems, right? But I don't
that's
want
true.
to. I don't want to take that chance. So get a shot, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I did
Heather.
a podcast with a doctor friend of mine, so it's listed in the library of all the previous podcasts.
Mhm.
She's a great doctor, and we talk a lot about what to do if you think you have COVID, and all that stuff. I'm sure it's just one more voice in your head as to what you can do. But being that you guys, all you fellas, have not gotten COVID, my husband had COVID during December, and it started out as, I just don't feel right. I feel achy all
Mhm.
over. I have this headache, which I've never had before. It's just, it won't go away. And it's just like an awful headache that he
Right.
had
Right.
for like 8 days straight. And then when he started to feel better was when we continuously took the blood oxygen levels with the
Right.
finger little monitor thing.
Mhm.
So on day 8, he actually started feeling better. His blood oxygen level was dropping. He went
Very
from
good.
97, 98 down to like 92, 91. And he's like, I feel fine.
That's not good though, right? I mean, that's when you have to start to worry.
Well, thank goodness we had the little finger thing because he completely felt fine. And what I was reading and in speaking to, the doctor, this is the stage where, your lungs are starting to fight something and there's stuff going on, but you don't realize it yet because you're not feeling symptoms. By the time you do feel symptoms of breathlessness and all
Mhm.
of that, you're already at a point where, not to say it's not recoverable, but you're already starting to do damage.
Right.
So, I tried to convince him, and then 2 other of our friends tried to convince him, like, let me just drop you off at the emergency room. Just
You didn't want to
go
go?
check it out. He's like, I'm not going to the emergency room. I'm fine. He's
Wow.
like, honestly, I feel fine.
What happened? Was he okay? Like,
I dropped him off at the emergency room.
oh yeah, of course.
I was like, listen, go in there. You
I'm a
have
bear.
you have all your faculties about you. You walk in, you say your name, here's what's going on.
Mhm.
And 2 hours later, he had pneumonia. The
Wow.
the chest x-ray showed, little infiltrations or whatever they call it with pneumonia. He had pneumonia. He didn't know it yet, but it's good that we caught it because they gave him a Z-Pack and steroids. I picked him up, a few hours later,
Mhm.
and that's it. He was 100% better by the end of the week after the 5 days of the medicine. But, had we not, the cat is at the door, had we not addressed it at that time,
Mhm.
it would have gotten worse until the point where he felt his symptoms. And then at that point, then they had to do other stuff. Our other friend in town had the same type of thing. His progressed a little bit farther than my husband's, and he was in the hospital. He was receiving, the cannula, the oxygen, supplemented oxygen, and he also was. They put him on remdesivir,
Yeah.
and he was in the hospital for the course of remdesivir. So whatever that was, 3, 5 days.
And he's okay now?
He's fine, but you have to you can't be anyone who. Do you have the blood oxygen level thing
I
with?
bought it in January. What, are you kidding me?
Good. Do you do it every day? Make sure you do it
I
often.
get tested. I've been tested probably 12 times already. I
Yeah.
get tested like once a week or once every other week. I'm always getting tested because there's a place about 15, 20 minutes from here that does the rapid test and the PCR.
Yeah.
So I just go like every Friday or every other Friday, and I just get a test, even though I feel fine. But
That's
it's,
great. You couldn't even get a test here. Like even now, if you signed up, you would have to wait 3 days for your appointment. And if you're
really?
starting to feel, yeah, we like in different areas, and I'm only here in Central Jersey. There's definitely places that are certainly still strapped for testing, and they just don't have the time to see everyone, and people are, people are still getting sick.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with getting a test here, ever.
Yeah.
There's been, I think New York is really heavy on testing. I don't know if New Jersey is. I guess they are too, but I think New Jersey is actually ahead of us on immunizations, though. I think that New Jersey, I know people our age that are getting immunized already.
Because they're frontline workers or
No,
essential or
they're not
something.
really frontline workers.
No.
No,
Oh, this is another expose that you're like bringing to the
no. I
table
know
here.
people in New Jersey that are getting shots that I'm not exactly sure how they're getting them, but they're able to get them. I think one of the things is if I don't know if this is true, but it's what I heard that if the clinic who's doing the immunizations, if there's no shows, then you can call and take their spot if they don't show up.
Oh, well, that's good, because there was that whole story about New York City dumping vaccines for people who were no-shows, and they were,
Oh, really?
yeah,
I mean, just walk outside and jab someone, right?
yeah.
I mean,
I know,
don't
exactly,
waste them, you know?
exactly.
So yeah, no, I
Well,
think we'll be all right. We'll be all right. You
yeah,
know,
we're good.
we'll get through this. We'll get through this.
It'll be fine. Okay, well, good catching up with you. Thank you for all of your
Me
time.
too. Me too. Thank you. What have we spent? Half hour?